and welcome to episode 8 of the Unstuck Club. Di, episode 8, thanks for reminding me that it's episode 8. How are you, Di?
Yeah, I'm good. It feels like forever since we were on with Jill, but it's still only 2 weeks, but it just feels like so much has been going on. And from what I gather from conversations I've had with people, it's like everyone's feeling it. It's like, I don't know if it's, when we started this podcast, I don't know if it was because we are constantly in that space of like being unstuck. And I think possibly things happen and then we go, oh, okay, so I'm getting unstuck from this, or this is something I need to get unstuck from. But it's like things just start happening like one after the other. And you're sort of, or maybe it's just looking at them with different eyes because we're in this Unstuck Club, Unstuck Life space. I just feel like the last 2 weeks have been jam-packed energetically, and there's just been so much going on. I don't know about you.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I also think we wouldn't have started the Unstuck Club if you and I didn't do brave things to consciously keep ourselves moving and get unstuck, right? Because that's such an important thing for me. I, especially in the last couple of weeks, like I've gotten unstuck from this real block of how do I put myself out there and what do people want to see? And then I finally got to a point of it's actually not about what people want to see. It's about who you are and who is your most authentic self. And now I'm starting to get beautiful messages from people and questions from people, which is lovely. And a lot of the questions are, where did you start? Like, what was the first thing that you did to get unstuck? Or what do you do to make sure that you're always moving forward? Like those kind of questions. So I think we're always on it, you and I, right? And that's why we're here, because we want to help people and show people that we still get stuck and then unstuck and stuck. And I think it's definitely felt like more than 2 weeks for me because there's been so much going on, you know?
It's interesting what you say about getting unstuck. And I mean, there's one thing I do know about you and I is how parallel our lives run. Even when we're not talking about it to each other, it comes up at the same time. I mean, that really fascinates me because I've had exactly the same experience. And for anyone out there who is in their own business or they are their brand, a few weeks ago, I started getting more active on LinkedIn purely because of the kinds of people that I want to connect with my grief work in companies and businesses and corporates. And it can be quite intimidating. You look at these people who are just doing these really, they're great posts, but I sometimes feel quite intimidated. And it's stupid enough, it's stupid things like, should I put my purple heart at the end of my post? Or is that not sort of cool to do in business? But I'm not a corporate. I'm bringing a service to a corporate, but I'm still me. And this is how I show up, with purple hearts on most of my messages. It doesn't matter what platform it is. But I've really had to catch myself and go, Di, that's not you. Don't start changing your posts because you think you have to fit in. And, the other thing is like on Instagram, it's absolutely awash with these experts going, your Instagram account needs to look like this. This doesn't work and this does work. And you need this. I saw one now like Instagram doesn't care about your hashtags any longer. They've changed their algorithm. And it's just like, oh my word. And I've had to go, I'm not getting stuck in that, because then I'm going to go into my head and start trying to change my posts to what I think it should be, as opposed to going, saying and sharing what is in my heart, the way you have done in those beautiful conscious moment videos. They are just so real. And yeah, it's fascinating how closely we run as we move from stuck to unstuck. And I think, Joe, with you and I, one of our biggest challenges has been to get unstuck from this. How do we put ourselves out there?
Like, you cannot believe. If I am saying like, if we were not recording and you has been for me like, I cannot tell you the levels of frustration you have seen. It has killed me because there isn't, like, when I'm authentic, I'm actually quite I'm quirky when I'm authentic. And then, which you've seen that beautiful quirky side of me, right? And then, but quirky is so not professional. And it was very interesting because this all started like just throwing myself out there. We met when I did Project Me, right? So for years, somewhere I was on Twitter, and I think I'd been blogging for Project Me quite a long time. So a little bit of how I got stuck, because how I got stuck is important, is I was doing literally daily blogs every day, and it was kind of like this online journal of how I live absolutely goalless but completely purposeful, right? And in that, I was kind of not caring what I was saying, which was interesting, and offended my certain family members along the way. And rightly so, because I was kind of like, I'm saying it and you got to deal with it. So before I kicked back in, because I've really been struggling, I actually spoke to my mom, and I spoke to my one sister who watches all my content and who I had offended along the way, and said, what did I get wrong? Like, how can I do it differently? What did I get wrong? And then they were kind of like, you just came across as like you don't care, but we know that you do care. So, just... And it took me a while still to just naturally put my stuff out. And then I literally walked past and there were kids looking for Easter eggs in the garden. And I sat with it and I wanted to share it. And the reason why I'm telling the back story is because I've picked up 3 clients since I've been just throwing the content out there. And the one client I picked up was because of a post that I did on LinkedIn that I was, should I, shouldn't I? It's not for LinkedIn. It's not the right place. This is TikTok stuff. This isn't LinkedIn stuff. Why? Because it was an overly emotional post that I was going to be listening to the Taylor Swift album by myself. Like, I felt alone, and did I backwards and forwards about should it go on LinkedIn? Shouldn't it go on LinkedIn? It's so not professional. How can you be so soppy? How can you cry? How can you, and I picked this, she got hold of me and she was like, I just, where'd you get the courage to just be so authentically yourself? And I'm so grateful I did that. I'm so grateful I did that. But I think what everyone should know is the backwards and forwards, that umming and ahhing and should I, shouldn't I? I was driving myself crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, I think it's something that we really have to be mindful of, is how we're showing up on the social media space. I mean, I heard a story this morning about someone I know, and I've been watching, I don't know them well, but I've been watching her posts on social media, and they just seem like this amazingly happy, successful family. And I heard a story this morning and I just went, oh my word, it just goes to show that what we put out there is not always how it actually is. And there are a lot of really, really big issues, which is sad. But I went, oh my goodness, I just looked at them and I was so in awe of how they've got it together, and, and it's anything but. And I think that, and I think too, when I look back to when I had my meltdown, I'd fallen into that trap. I was putting out these positive posts. What can I say today that uplifts people? But in all honesty, I was feeling anything but inspired and uplifted. So I wasn't being authentic. And then when I started to share my struggles, that had way more interaction and response. And yes, some people were shocked. Like, oh my God, you're so strong. We didn't think you would get to that point. Well, I did. And that's why I've learned, it's like, be real. If you're going to show up, not to get sympathy. I think that's the other thing is not to do it so that everyone goes, ah, shame, but to say, like, if I'm feeling like this, I told you we'd started this I Need a Mud Buddy group. And, and Simon Sinek, when he talks about his 8 minutes, he's so beautiful. He said that his friend had gone through some really tough times. And he said, why didn't you reach out? And she said, well, I did. And he said, when? And she said, well, I kept asking you to come over. And he was like, how am I supposed to know that you wanting me to come over is a sign that you need somebody? You have to say,
yes,
I need help. I need an ear. I need a shoulder. I need a hug. Or why are we so scared to voice what it is that we actually need? Is it because we think we're showing weakness or vulnerability, or we don't want to be a burden, or maybe it's all of them?
So I'm going to be vulnerable and share a story of a friendship that I lost because of that exact dynamic. And this is one thing that I believe is so important, and I do it in the coaching, is if you don't know the story, you don't know the truth of the story, you actually need to make up in your head whatever brings you peace, right? So I did my big decision to become a nomad, and she was extremely supportive. And when I came back to South Africa, I was finding my feet of where was I going to stay? What does nomading look like for me? Where's the next house that's coming in? All of that. And I got a message saying, please call me. And I responded saying, I'm just moving, I'm just making final decisions of where I'm going to be. And I didn't call. And when we got together a couple of weeks later, she told me the terrible time she had been going through. And I said to her, but you never told me that was what was going on. And she said to me, I was too selfish to have noticed, too selfish to have seen. So the picture that I needed to paint in my head is that sometimes we also, if you want to get unstuck, like if you really want to get unstuck, then there is a certain degree of transparency that you need to have, which Simon Sinek's friend should have also had, and actually said, maybe you're missing the signs. But the thing is, in this beautiful mind of ours that's so very protective of who we are, there's always either the voice of the victim or the voice of the child, right? So the victim's always going, your thing is more important than my thing, I'm trying to show you. So you're either being cruel to someone else or you're expecting that someone's being cruel to you. And the child voice is going, well, now I feel abandoned. I need you. You're not showing up for me. You show up for everybody else. And what we have to actually learn to ask for, because there is the other side of it, which is unfair to judge a relationship by reading between the lines. And that's what I had to get to in order to let go of the friendship. I had to get to the point of actually saying, yes, I was completely selfishly in my bubble at that time, right? But then to say, this is why I need you, so that because of course I'm going to show up, and of course he's going to show up. We're going to show up. We
Yeah.
will show up, but it's got to come in a transparency. And going back to that online, it's also, I mean, we don't want to be all dramatic. And I do have some dramatic posts coming. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be absolutely transparent, is I'm loving being here. It's going to be a big thing for me to leave this beautiful nomadic space. I am going to do a post where I'm crying at the airport. I am, because I didn't expect to bond the way that I was going to bond. Now it feels like a risk to be a nomad. It feels like a very bad idea. So to be able to be vulnerable and transparent, but also not to do it in such a way that you're expecting people to read between the lines, so that and that's what I see a lot on social media, like all this reading between the lines, like I've plotted this out in such a way that you're actually reading and getting to the point of, I need you as a client, or I feel like I see a lot of almost like desperation for attention online, and that I never want. Like that I never want. But then on the other hand, I'm saying there was such empathy because there's so much noise online, right? And everyone's trying to get heard.
Yeah, I think it's not it's like trying to find the happy medium. And I think at the moment, I mean, it does seem to be getting noisier and noisier, and it is very easy to become disheartened or disillusioned, whether it's from a business space or a personal space, that you look at everyone else's lives and just think, well, they're perfect. And they're not. And I think it goes back to really bringing your attention back to yourself and what you offer, whether it's in the role of mother or husband or business owner, like be that best version of yourself on that day, because that changes every day. And if you can get unstuck from this pressure of trying to be perfect at everything. And I mean, I know when you and I started this, I mean, I think the first episode, I mean, Fergus was barking outside, and we wanted it, how can we get rid of the background noise, and what microphones do we need? And then I was listening to a podcast yesterday, one of the top podcasts, and the guest had her dogs barking in the background. And I was like, it's life. It's never, unless we put ourselves in soundproof, sanitized studios, this is it. I'm in my therapy room. You're in your house sit. Like, I'm on my phone because the laptop, we couldn't get the sound. But we showed up anyway. And I think that's the thing, is sometimes I think we get stuck in that it needs to be perfect, or I'm not going to do it, or I need to be perfect at it. Whether you're wanting to sign up for an art class or take a writing course, like, oh no, but I'm not good enough yet. So let me first practice a little bit. And then you just stay stuck, you never do it.
And for me, I see that as this concern about how will people perceive me. Like, because I know that was a thing for me. Like, I am quite happy to, in my real small circles, I'm very happy to be quirky. I'm really and truly very happy to be quirky. And I don't try, I just naturally am. Today, we slipped out for a while, the neighbor and myself, and she took me to the sweetest place where I'm going to post some pictures across my social networks. Someone has gone into this, it's one of those areas, when they call the areas like the common areas, and they have put fairy doors on all the trees.
Oh my God.
It's so sweet. It's so sweet. And there's something specific that I want for dinner, and we've found it. And now I've created like an entire event around this one particular thing for dinner. And we were talking about how these simple, how like she was like, "Are you really this excited? It's Baba Ganoush. It's like I'm so excited.
Okay.
Are you really so excited for it?" And I am. And sometimes I tone it down, right? Sometimes I know I tone it down because of that very concern of if I am my most authentic self, what will people think?
Yeah.
And that, and you know, the thing is, Di, the thing is that it does come actually from being judged and being told, tone it down. You know,
Yeah.
it has
Yeah.
come from that. Like, um, and some of it's childhood stuff because we're all going to eventually look back and we're going to spot our childhood stuff of, you know, this messaging that I was, you know, airy fairy. My sisters called me liver hexy because I was always doing weird things and lost in that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of the things that we do online, we are trying to protect ourselves so much and guard ourselves so much because we're really afraid of our most authentic self. How will we defend our most authentic self if it gets criticized?
Yeah. And look, I mean, it's a very real thing. I mean, I follow a woman on Instagram. I think she's in her 50s, and she's got the most amazing way with fashion, and she's got all these different outfits. And she did a post today. There's a close up of her face, and she's got like a little mole here. So her hair's back. She's got short hair. She's got a mole here somewhere. And someone had posted a comment and said, "Please remove that mole. It's the only thing I see when I look at you." And and she was like, "What do I do with this?"
Yeah.
And you try not to get upset or offended. But she said, the first thing I do is I'm now second guessing myself. Is it really that big? I didn't and there were a couple of thousand comments. Most of them were like just get rid of that follower, but most of them said like, it's we didn't even notice it until she said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but she said, and I'm trying not to get sucked into this now. From one comment, there's 2,400 odd amazingly supportive and beautiful comments, but that one comment, and we get stuck in that. And I go back to that woman I knew who wrote her first Afrikaans novel and won a literary prize and had 20 amazing critiques about it and one negative critique, and she never wrote again.
Which is just heartbreaking. For
Yeah.
me, that is heartbreaking.
With 8 billion people nearly, you're never going to please everyone and make everyone happy. And if someone's in a particularly grumpy mood, they're going to look at you as this fab 50 something woman who's funky and has got a gorgeous figure, and they're going to hate you and they're going to verbalize their hate. It's their stuff. It's like nothing to do with you. If we can get unstuck from realizing that unkindness like that is very little to do with us and everything to do with where the person is in that space. And, try, and I know it's hard sometimes to try and see them with compassionate eyes, like, oh, that person must really be having an unhappy day. But we don't, because we are so fragile around our appearance and how we show up in the world. I think the number of people who can say they are honestly 100% comfortable with how they look and how they feel about themselves, I think it's a small percentage. All of us have that fragile ego when it comes to that.
And I'm more fine putting myself out, like appearance rise and posting pictures and all that kind of stuff. But someone said to me, I hope it wasn't you because I can't remember now. You talk so sporadically about the books you wrote. I think a lot of people struggle with their creativity or their talent or their art or their putting that out, because for that to be criticized is that for me is it sets me back. It absolutely sets me back when I put something out and I get any kind of feedback that where someone doesn't see that. I mean, you can hear I even like really struggle to speak about it, and I think that that's a big thing for people. The risk, and I'm on TikTok a lot. I really and truly love that platform, and I follow really, really beautiful people. And there are people who just come back and they're like, I was so brave and I wrote a song. And because you can put the comments up so you can actually see the terribly mean things that people have said. And people just say terribly mean things about a song that someone's written and a piece of art that someone's created and a dress that someone's made. And, no one they aren't absolute professionals. They are braving putting it out there. And for me, that's such that to break someone down like that, when you can just bloody well keep your mouth shut. What's the point? Like, what's the point?
Or even, even just say, not my cup of tea, but good on you, great effort, whatever it is, not everything, not everything has to please us or make us happy. I look at art sometimes and I go, why would anyone spend money on that? But that's me. The person next to me falls in love with it and happily shells out, a couple of $1 million for what looks like squiggles or paint splashes on a canvas. Like it's an interesting. I think this, is a whole discussion on its own, that how the public platforms, the social media forums, have opened the door to meanness and unkindness in a lot of ways. That people don't think, like, you would not say that. Most people would not say that to the person if they were standing in front of them. They would say, they just wouldn't. But it's like that anonymity of a keyboard gives them the right to just, come out with really, really horrible things. And it takes a very brave person to be able to withstand that.
Absolutely. And it's the courage and the confidence that it takes to keep on going. And then when we take it offline, you're going to try something brave, and because that's also something that happened to me. Like I was trying something brave. I was trying a different avenue of coaching so long ago, and people were like, oh, that's not for everyone, and try and change the wording of that, and corporate isn't going to accept you if you use that kind of word. Oh, word. In the end, I couldn't stay true to myself. I mean, you went through that with me. I mean, I sat with you on a couch, and I don't think I moved for days, just like trying to write myself and rewrite myself and rewrite myself again and again, in trying to find the language that other people would hear as the right language, instead of just holding onto my authentic voice.
Which is an impossible task, because how many ways are you going to write it to make everybody happy?
And I need to just, for my business partner Greg, who is so very patient with me, we are slowly updating the website, and I created website content, and it was like 14 pages, and it's now beautifully narrowed down. So on Saturday we got together and I took him through everything, and because as I get more confident, I don't have to explain myself as much. So that's what I've realized. And I think that's a big wish for you and me in getting unstuck. Understand why you do what you do, because that's going to help you get unstuck. So I have learned that I explain myself a lot. I am very wordy when I am in low esteem, and the more confident I get, the less words I need. And then my business partner has to go back into the website and change all the stuff that he's done. And when we were together on Saturday, he was like, I'm just going to archive this and not delete it in case you change your mind again. And the only reason I would change my mind again is if I allow my esteem to waver. And that's a big thing to hold on to to discover a bit of who you are and then hold on to it that's the biggest thing. Someone said to me the other day, about the steps that I'd taken to change. And she said to me, but I do like who I am. And I said, it's one thing to like who you are, but it's another thing to act on that and show the world that you like who you are. So it's one thing to say, I believe in myself, or I have a dream and I am going to see it through, because that's what we do. We set intentions for ourselves, right? But it's another thing to brave actually doing something that will be so different, that will get you on this path that where you actually just can't stop. You know, when you start rolling down the hill as a kid
Yeah.
and you can't stop, it's that initial letting go, and then it just rolls and rolls and rolls. Because it's yeah.
No, I was going to say that's a great awareness of a red flag when you go into low self-esteem, that you suddenly get really wordy, like over-explain. Because I mean, I've seen when you've sent me stuff, and then we're like, okay, we just need to simplify this a little bit. But that's a really nice awareness.
Yeah.
That, okay, I'm slipping back into that. I'm not sure about this, and I'm not sure how it's going to be received. That's I really like that you've had that awareness.
So there's a part in the our blueprint of our personality where I actually picked it up in the blueprint of my personality, because before I coach anyone else on my work, you've seen me. I do the whole process myself, and I actually picked it up when I was doing that process in those 38 facets of what makes up our personality. We have different points of communicating and listening, and I have a low self-esteem point of communicating where I use too many words to try and explain myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to do. I think we're also going to start sharing some of that as you discover your stuff and I discover my stuff.
Yeah, I do know with the last lot of questions that we've just worked through, one of the things that I do need, and I've known it for a long time, is I need a grounding partner. I need someone who will keep me on track. To say, like, if I say, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this, and it's a great tool for those of us who struggle with procrastination, which is just a long word for fear. You know, you put off doing it. Like, you know, I said to you last week, I'm going to also like start doing videos. Haven't done them yet because the time hasn't been right, or I haven't done my hair, or whatever the story was. But I work much better when I'm collaborating with someone. It's a struggle for me to do things on my own. And I think that's a really important way to get unstuck, is to start going into, well, what are my strengths? And it goes back to asking for help.
Yep.
You know, so if you know that you really struggle with something, you then go, okay, well, who can I talk to? Who can I soundboard with? Who can I share with? Who can keep me accountable? And I think in this journey of getting unstuck, especially with the big unstuck, the big things that we're stuck with, to find an accountability partner who can send you the message going, hey, did you make the phone call? Did you write the email? Have you spoken to your partner? Whatever it is. Because it can be a freaking lonely, hard journey when we do it on our own. You know, and I know that any diet organization normally goes like, you know, work with an accountability buddy, and the woman set up a group and, oh, I ate this today and I fell off the wagon or whatever. But these deeper issues that we all struggle with is to have an unstuck buddy.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, like I want you to be my unstuck buddy. I'm struggling with writing my book, pitching the, you know, the corporate proposal, whatever it is, or just something simple in life, like I really want to get up early in the mornings. I'm spending too much time in bed. So have an unstuck buddy who will phone you at 6:30 a.m. and go, "Are you up? Why aren't you up?" No, okay, get up. I want you to stand up. I want you to go and put your gym clothes on and go for a walk or whatever it is. So I think to have an unstuck buddy when you feel like you're really, really struggling.
Well, I think that that's a great thing to do, is to also, if anyone isn't in the Unstuck Club on Facebook, to get onto the Unstuck Club on Facebook. And I actually really love that idea. So if anyone's listened to this and they want an Unstuck buddy and they don't have one, then I think it's a lovely thing to set up and see who we can pair up and who we can partner up, and because it actually, we in certain things, you and I are that for each other. And my little sister and myself, when it comes to our eating and staying on track and all of that kind of stuff, we check in with each other when we do that, and it's actually a really important thing to have. So I love that Unstuck buddy. I think we started something.
And also just to know in this whole journey that you're not alone.
Absolutely.
I think that sometimes it can feel like no one else is going through this. No one else knows how I feel. And nothing could be further from the truth. We are all going through stuff. And I think the world at the moment, I mean, especially in South Africa, it's very uncertain. You can feel, I spoke to someone the other day who's a consultant, and all the big financial houses are putting their training on hold until June, July. They want to see what happens on the 29th of May with the elections. There is this uncertainty with all the things that are going on all around the world. So, we're not alone in this. So if you the Unstuck Club on Facebook it's a private group. It's a wonderful place to share your struggles and go, I need an unstuck buddy, or I need I need a coffee, or to your friends, like, I need a coffee with you. Have a code word. Simon Sinek says, I need 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Then it's serious. It's not like pop over. Please call me. We're not mind readers. We have a lot of gifts. Mind reading isn't one of them.
And that was my thing. That was why it was okay for me to settle into letting go of that friendship, because that was my thing. I am not a mind reader, and I did not know how you wanted me to show up. And I think that this is a really important statement to end this podcast on, is tell people how you want them to show up in order for you to get the support that you want to get unstuck. That's what's probably, if that's the first bravest thing for you to do, is just voice what you really need and how you need it. If that's the first thing it's going to take to get unstuck.
Yeah. Great advice.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
We will see you in 2 weeks. Otherwise, we'll see you in the Facebook group, and we'll see you online and in all different places. And because you and I, we are committed to putting ourselves out there more, because we know that what we both have to offer is really, people need us, and that's what motivates us, right? All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.